Chase Thomas the Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. Joining me from RockyTopInsider.com, Ryan Schumpert, whose eyes got really big as I did this intro. Are you okay, Ryan? Was it just the intensity of my intro? What was it? Because you were startled here on YouTube.
Yeah, it's a combination, the intensity of the intro, which, credit to you for breaking the juice. It's my allergies acting up a little bit. It's the chaotic last week. So it's a combination of things. And the voice crack, we're gonna chalk it up to the combination of things too.
Ryan's struggling right here out of the gate, but we'll get Ryan back in here in a little bit. Let's take a break. Hey, Ethan, can you mute him? Ethan Stone of SaturdayDownSouth.com also here. Ethan, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing very well. There was college basketball on our screens, collective screens, the other night. So I can't get ready. I can't wait anyway for hoop season, and a lot to talk about obviously this week, as Ryan alluded to. Yeah,
a lot going on. We have baseball stuff, basketball stuff. Football stuff, obviously, but two very different Saturdays, I would say. Last Saturday was diabolical in every sense of the word for Vol fans everywhere. Even Vol media, like Ryan Schumpert, was just fighting for his life over the weekend as well. And then this Saturday, nice little Saturday for Tennessee this week.
I was still fighting for my life, but yes, a much better Saturday, much more joyful stuff to write about for sure.
That's what is the expression? Them's the breaks is, I believe, the expression there. But hey, we take it and we move. And we move here on Tennessee football. They beat Kentucky over the weekend in Lexington, the South's favorite rivalry. Not an empty seat in the house at Kroger Field. An electric factory. I saw when they dimmed the lights, or they did, and they had the blue strobe and everything else. It just, you could feel the intensity. You could feel the pageantry. You could feel the passion amongst both Kentucky and Tennessee fans. I don't know. Ryan was there. Ethan, wasn't it wild that we could pick up that? We couldn't hear anything like on the broadcast. Like, I couldn't hear Tom Hart. I couldn't hear Jordan Rogers. It was just, it was so deafening at that venue in the cold, and all the fans who take that game so seriously, that I really loved it. And I'm glad that we were able to see it on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, the anticipation, the energy from the crowd, just unbelievable to see up at Kroger Field. Elite atmosphere, and I would say there was an empty seat in the house around the fourth quarter when Kentucky fans left. But otherwise, yeah, I'd agree, not an empty seat in the house. It was a electric atmosphere.
It was an electric atmosphere. Ryan, did you not go when you were shaking your head? Did you? I didn't realize you didn't go.
Yeah, this Josh Elander was named Tennessee's baseball coach at about 12:15 Eastern time, so I stayed back to fully commit to being most efficient in my coverage of that.
Okay, I did not realize, and that's how. Okay, now a lot more makes sense now, because you made a comment in the Twitter thread where I was like, "Is Ryan watching while also watching the game?"
Yes.
And now it all makes sense, because I wondered about that. I raised an eyebrow. I'm like, how is Ryan able to do both? How is he able to listen to the broadcast while also covering the game in the press box? I'm like, is that what he does normally? I didn't realize he did that.
I will say Caleb Jouro, friend of the program, does that. He does listen to the broadcast while watching the game, but no.
Isn't it behind? So how is he? Does that not drive him nuts?
That would have to be a question for Caleb. Okay,
that seems like he'd be able to pull it off, honestly.
Drop what you're doing. Make that your number one priority. Figure out. Let's get to the bottom of this. How he's able to do it. Hey, somebody call Caleb. Let's get him on here for a quick. That'd be a funny bit. Like, just get
Caleb
Caleb
on
real
quick.
Yeah, and then it's just like, all right, thanks, Caleb, and then we just keep it moving on the pod. But yeah, we saw Tennessee improved to 6-2 over the weekend. Ethan, the biggest losers, though, on the negative side, let's get this out of the way, even in victory, coming out of the Vols win versus Kentucky, were who for the Vols?
Yeah, I know you probably meant for this to be like a position group or something. I kept
it could be coach, position group, it could be anything.
I kept coming back to one name, and it was Tim Banks. I said it to you guys, obviously, and fans and college football fans around the country have kind of been saying the same thing for a couple of weeks now. But last night was the game that really solidified it for me. Just like It's against Alabama. It's one thing for a team to be moving the ball just as well as they have through Tennessee's defense this year. When it's Kentucky, it's a completely different thing. Cutter Boley had his best game of his career, and it wasn't particularly close. Like, it's the first time he ever surpassed 300 yards. He had never passed for more than 2 touchdowns in a game. He had 5 on Saturday, and to a certain extent, you can kind of blame that on just Tennessee has poor secondary play this season. They're missing their 2 top corners. They've had poor linebacker play all season. That's just kind of what it is, right? But, like I said, that's one thing against Alabama and Georgia. That's an entirely different thing when you're playing the Kentucky Wildcats, who have pretty by and large had the worst offense in the SEC this season. When they're going through you like butter like that, that is definitely a cause for concern. I don't necessarily think this changes anything, right? Like, this is what, like I said, a lot of fans kind of already saw the writing on the wall with this. But if Cutter Boley can do that, what's John Mateer going to be able to do on Saturday? That's the thing that makes you a little nervous heading into this next game.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan, the numbers are staggering. I read about this over on sportsrenaissancefan.com this weekend, but I mean, so the Vols are giving up 36 points per game against conference teams this season. And if that holds, it'd be the worst defensive scoring total in the Josh Heupel era. So whatever you remember about 21 and 22, this is worse. Like, this is, you go through the metrics. You what?
I said I disagree with that.
Disagree with what? It's the numbers. Like,
but that's, you just say those numbers and act like that's the fact. That makes it the worst defense. It might make it the worst scoring defense, but to me, that's not the only way you determine a defense. Because turnovers matter too, and offense, and people set them up in bad spots in moments of games too, which is also why it's been this way.
Well, and that's one of the things. The positives is that people who are worried if the turnovers were sustainable. Hey, they're sustainable because we're going into November and the timely turnovers are still happening. So to your point, that is one of the key differences. I mean, it flipped the game, 14 points. Like, Tennessee doesn't cover if they don't have those 14 points off turnovers. They would have won by 8. I think it was an 8.5 point line. So that does matter. So to that point, yes, I do think this is the worst secondary in the Heupel era. I think. And this Saturday, I mean, Colton Hood not being available for a lot of the second half here, and we'll see what it looks like for him at the end of the week with the calf thing. But, man, if you're in a situation where, and look, we'll see. I mean, Ethan, your point about John Mateer, I mean, it has not been great since he's come back from injury. It's just he's looked like a completely different quarterback. But Tennessee might be in a spot where they go with a true freshman and Ty Redmond on one side and a walk-on upperclassman William Wright on the other, and where they get a bunch of snaps. The last time we saw something like that was South Carolina 2022, where Brandon Turnage and a couple other guys were getting thrown in there because they were just so. I think William Wright actually got a lot of run in that game. Am I misremembering that in 22? Because I remember they were down bad and due to injuries in the secondary in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I would say is different, because I'm not positive on the William Wright aspect. That sounds right to me. It felt like in 22. Tennessee had about 6 corners that were all about as good as one another. None of them were very good, but it was just like they had a ton of injuries. And I'm obviously those guys were a little bit worse, but it wasn't a huge gap. Where right now, I guess they're getting to number 4 and 5 on the depth chart, and that's when it's getting really, really dicey. You're seeing such a big drop off. So probably less injuries and less depth, and it's more noticeable because the starting quality guys are a lot better than like the guys were in 22.
And it's just a lot of youth, right? Like, I think that's the big difference is you have a lot of older veteran transfers and got holdovers from Pruitt. They just had low ceilings, like that was just kind of the deal. But now you have a bunch of freshmen, like Trey Proti doesn't play. Dylan Lewis doesn't play. You look at the guys behind the starters. I mean, you had the big time players. I mean, you have 2 first rounders in Colton Hood and Jermon McCoy who are not available. And then we'll see where Ricky is next year. But yeah, I mean, it's just like a huge difference between experience, age, I think ceiling, all that kind of stuff. But that is a little scary in terms of if Mateer is starting, like if he turns the corner injury-wise this week, I mean, there is a possibility where William Wright and Ty Redmond lead Tennessee in snaps at corner. And it's at home. It's going to be dark mode. It's at night. But that is a little concerning just where your defense is at. I mean, I think the biggest thing too is the sacks have to return. Like the sacks have to come back. I don't know what's happened the last 2 weeks with 1 sack in 2 games, but it's the ship has kind of sailed at linebacker. The ship has kind of sailed at safety. corner, if you're not getting Dramad back, I think the ship has sailed there too. But it's really, for me, Ethan, the sacks have to return. That's just been one of the weirdest parts, especially on Saturday night against Kentucky. I could not believe they only ended up with 1 sack in that game.
Yeah, and I mean it's certainly a help, right? That's if you're getting to the quarterback more, you're going to disrupt just their entire flow, and it's going to make it easier on your secondary. That, like you said, I mean, Vols are missing Ricky Gibson, missed Colton Hood for a good part of that game, and obviously I've been without McCoy for a good while. So, I feel like when you're playing in the SEC, especially, like any quarterback is going to be able to take advantage of what you give them. And John Mateer, especially, like, I mean, I think it's fair to your point, what you said earlier, Chase, that Mateer was playing considerably better earlier in the season. He was playing pretty good defenses, and then he gets hurt, and he's just running into more issues. I think it's also important kind of to realize that it's very strange, but this is going to be the best home environment or away environment that Mateer has played in all season. They've only played 2 away games this year. I believe it was Temple, which is very strange, and I don't even know, was it South Carolina? Maybe the other one.
It was,
but
yeah.
And so that makes that's a little bit of a wrinkle as well. Like despite Tennessee not playing too well in the secondary, if they can just get some pressure on the guy, the crowd can do the rest of it. At the very least, can help ease a little bit of what's going on here. It's not like they're going to just fix the problem, but it can make it a little tougher to whereas, it's not just going to be a Ty Simpson picking them off, because I do believe Mateer has kind of slipped in that regard. It's just, you give any competent SEC quarterback any opportunities, they're going to take it, especially considering, Oklahoma's playing for a college football playoff here. If they lose this one, they're out. If Tennessee loses this one, they're out. So there's going to be that heightened, I guess, intensity to it as well.
Yeah, I think that's fair. On the positive side, Ryan Schumpert, who are the big winners for Tennessee on Saturday?
Yeah, I just think you'd look at the Tennessee passing game and how good that was. Joey Aguilar, I thought, played his best game in a season. Was super accurate throwing the ball down the field. Obviously, all 3 of Tennessee's receivers get 100 yards, first time since the 2019 Missouri game, which I should have looked this up before, but it is funny to look back. I mean, I think Tennessee scored like 24 points in that game against Missouri, which just speaks to the Jeremy Pruitt era. That in a game where they had 3 receivers with 100 yards, they were only able to score 24 points. But yeah, I thought Brazel especially. He'd had a couple quiet games in a row. I thought it was good to see him back making some plays down the field. David Sanders played really well. And then, defensively, I will say on the sacks note, I completely agree. That's a big thing for this game on Saturday. I did think Kentucky and Cutter Boley did a really good job of just getting the ball out quickly, which I think mitigated some of the sack concerns. But I thought John McMurray had a good game, especially when you compare it up to against Boo Carter. I thought Jaden Perlotti looked good. I thought Edwin Spillman, besides that one just terrible play on 3rd down that led to it being 4th and short, and Kentucky converting on that touchdown drive into the second quarter, was pretty good. So obviously a SEC game you win by 3 touchdowns. There were a lot of positives, but those were some of the performances that kind of stood out to me.
Yeah, I think, Ethan, when you look at it on the offense, I mean, it's just everyone. I mean, Staley has been the most consistent, I think, through the first 8 games of the year. And he had the quietest night, but you look at his stats in the night and like Staley, he just keeps doing the little things, like Staley just keeps being consistent. And Mike obviously had a great game, but the drops were not an issue. Because, I mean, remember, I was thinking back to last year watching this game. Remember, Nico would have had 4 TDs, 400 yards passing in that game against Kentucky if Nimrod and I think Brazel actually did not have 2 touchdown drops in that game. So Tennessee has carved up Kentucky's defense every year under Heupel to this point, and it's just kind of that interesting thing where this offense can sometimes get stuck in neutral, it feels like, but they just, when they hit those 5 to 6 chunk play opportunities down the field in the game, because it's not like Joey Aguilar is bombing away 10 to 15 times a night. When you go 5, 6, like last night was perfect, right? Like he had a near perfect quarterback rating, especially on deep balls. It's like that's the difference in 35 or 28 points and kind of struggling to a win, or winning comfortably and scoring 50. So it's just kind of that make or miss. It's kind of like you're an NBA guy and we're both NBA guys. It's a make or miss league. And when Tennessee hits 4 of 6 of those deep shots, like they're really, really hard to beat.
Yeah, and I'd say that's probably fair for most teams. And I mean, specifically when you're talking for last year with Nico, I feel like that was a major thing that was just missing from it, right? Like he'd be, I don't want to throw a number on it because I don't know what it truly is, but say he's 50%, it feels like Joey's about 80% on those passes. Like if there's a guy open, I have considerable confidence that Joey's going to hit that pass. And I kind of thought that just heading into the season anyway. He's always been a good deep ball passer. And I think Tennessee has used that particular part of his skill set very, very well. Because it's like you say, they're not bombing away. It's not 10 of these per game. It's just Joey makes it count. Like he hits them when they're open, and obviously it helps. That I would agree. I'd say there's probably been less drops this season. I don't really know where the numbers would be on that, but it does feel like we're just getting better receiver play in general too, which I think is something a decent amount of fans might be taking a bit for granted. Because while yes, Mike and Braylon have kind of had those drop problems, the Vols have three really, really good receivers, and Saturday against Kentucky, who not the worst secondary in the SEC by any margin, not the worst Tennessee has played so far this season, looked really good against it.
One comment that I have on the passing game, and I'm not ready to go all in on this take, but like, I don't know if it's a complete coincidence. By far the best passing game of Tennessee's offense all year. Miles Kitselman had one target.
Oh,
and I like Miles Kitselman. He's a good player, but they just throw the ball to Joey. I mean, he's his safety blanket, and he doesn't need to be a safety blanket. He's just clearly not as dynamic and not as good as a pass catcher as the three receivers are, in my opinion.
Well, you also saw last week, right? Like Brame is the guy. If you're going to do the safety net at tight end type deal, it's Brame. And we should shout out Ethan Davis.
He did have an awesome game.
So I tend to agree. I think there's something to, it's kind of like last year. I mean, I think Kitselman led Tennessee in receiving against Arkansas. You're like, yeah, it was a brutal night for the offense. Like if Kitselman's cooking, we have a problem with Tennessee scoring. Tennessee's probably not putting up a lot of points.
Yeah, probably not. And it's like, because I was thinking, like, when I was thinking that take throw, I was like, well, Mike Matthews had to drop issues. I was like, so is Miles Kitselman.
Yeah.
Miles Kitselman had to drop issues without having the big play ability that Mike Matthews has and the chance to make guys miss and make stuff happen after catch.
Yeah, I mean, it's the blocking, right? Like, that's the main thing. Is like
they're
blocking.
Good, and he's a good, solid tight end. Like, I'm not saying Tennessee shouldn't play him. I think he'll play in the NFL for a little while. But it's just like he does not need to be the guy getting 6 targets a game and the go-to guy on third down.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, but Brame eventually, I think Brame's got the juice. So last week I'm like, Brame's basically kind of like a wide receiver in a little. And if you watched his like high school tape over there in Kansas, Son Brame, man, a little bit different. He kind of has that Georgia tight end juice. The Son Brame does.
Yeah, I mean he looked good, and there was obviously a lot of buzz about him in fall camp. So we'll see. I
not
think
this year, but in the coming.
Yeah, I know. I just think till the end of time, I'm gonna see it to believe it about the tight ends being big.
I think he's the one who has the best chance of being a difference maker tight end. Who it's like, oh, Tennessee could have a really good passing day, even if he has a really good day.
Yeah, he's as good of a chance as they've had. I would say that's definitely true.
Ethan, as our Saturday Down South SEC ball knower, early stats to know with Tennessee versus Oklahoma. Do you think, based on what you've seen from Oklahoma and Tennessee, that the Sooners are a good matchup or a bad matchup for the Vols on Saturday night?
I feel like, especially after watching Ole Miss just kind of go through their secondary at times, I feel better about the matchup this week than I did, say, last week. Because while I still think Oklahoma has a good defense, I mean, their defensive line is very, very good. Their secondary so far this season has been very good until they played Trinidad Chambliss and the Ole Miss offense, who was the best offense they played so far this season. I think that's very interesting. And I think Joey Aguilar and the 3 receivers that we just talked about, plus the offensive line, I think they could kind of test that a little bit, especially considering, like I said, this is just the 3rd road game for Oklahoma this season. I think that's going to be very important. So John Mateer in general, he's going to win or lose this game for Oklahoma. And obviously, you could say that it's Oklahoma's quarterback in the SEC. Quarterback play is kind of king there, but the defensive line specifically, if the Vols can get to him, can make his life miserable, I think they're going to have a rough time moving the football. And I do think defensively, their numbers they just have to be in for a little bit of a regression because, if you don't know, Oklahoma is the best sacks, tackles for loss in the SEC heading into this week. And they looked pretty pedestrian last week against Ole Miss, which I think is very important. So if Tennessee can kind of continue to expose that, just play as well as they have, I don't think there's anything too terrifying there about this Oklahoma defense now, just because of what Ole Miss was able to do to them last week. So you feel a little bit better about that, just because of how well, especially considering Joey just played probably his best game of the season, as Ryan pointed out, against Kentucky. So this is a game that both teams need really bad. I think it's going to come down to quarterback play. Whoever has the better day, whoever it plays better on the defensive line is probably going to win this one.
May I use the raise my hand function? We're not on Zoom, but I want to use the raise my hand function.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Oklahoma's defense? Why do they look so good? Well, let's go through the teams they've played, the real teams they've played. Michigan, terrible on offense. First real start for a true freshman quarterback. Auburn, utter incompetence.
Awful.
Texas, utter incompetence. South Carolina, the offense coordinator's having panic attacks because he can't figure out how to get this thing working. They played their first offense of the season against Ole Miss. They're good. Oklahoma is good on defense. Do not get me wrong about this, but just the over the board. Oh man, they're just unbelievable. Well, it's been nothing but incompetence, and now you might say, you might go counterpoint to me here. Tennessee's defense hasn't been able to stop incompetence this year. And I will say that's a good point, and you're right about it. But I'm not sitting here calling Tennessee's defense elite by any means. And Tennessee's defense has struggled, kind of back to our point earlier. I'm not trying to act like do this whole thing where they're just completely good or anything. I do think they're better than the final numbers would indicate. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with Oklahoma. And their offense, to me, hasn't been good. John Mateer played well early in the season before the injury. John Mateer himself, you watched him play, he played well. Their offense was still not very good in those games. So I've been an Oklahoma hater all year. I've been an Oklahoma hater all offseason. Potentially not having Colton Hood in this game and William Wright and Ty Redmond going tag team on this thing, it does worry me a little bit, if anything does.
Especially Boo Carter, who's coming off his worst game as a Vol.
Yeah.
I don't really see that mattering a ton, but
I'm just saying it's another element where it's like you don't feel good about Starr, you don't feel good about the corners, you don't feel good about the safeties.
I feel good about Jalen McMurray. I feel good about Jalen McMurray playing.
Okay.
The thing that makes me kind of nervous about this is Ryan Williams absolutely diced up Tennessee's secondary, and I think Satania is on a similar level to that. I think Mateer and Satania have developed enough of a connection there that I think he could be in for a very good game on Saturday. That's the one guy for them that kind of worries me because, to Ryan's point, they haven't really played anybody until they played Ole Miss, and that defense, especially in the first half, looked really terrible. They kind of reeled it in a little more in the second half. They played much better, but they got a little shell-shocked at the beginning. So, I feel like Satania could give probably Tennessee's defense some trouble, but the Sooners haven't run the ball very well this season. Blaylock has been just all right. Ole Miss kind of controlled them in that regard. So it's just, man, get to Mateer, make him struggle. Don't let him just dink and dunk Tennessee, and I feel like this is definitely manageable for the Vols. Like I said earlier, I feel better about this game now than I did last week because we just hadn't seen it. We hadn't seen Ole Miss just kind of go through them the entire first half. If Trinidad Chambliss and the Ole Miss offense can do it, I think Joey in the passing game can as well.
Did y'all see Lane Kiffin just obliterate Brent Venables today in his press conference?
I did.
Is that funny?
Was that quote as terrible as it seems out of context from Venables? Why would he say that? Like, am I just missing something? Because
they were not the better team.
Not even close. It wasn't anyone that watched the game. It wasn't even close. Honestly, Ole Miss should have won by more.
It wasn't like they turned the ball over 5 times or something just for going up and down the field.
Oof. That was tough. But I do think, I wonder if y'all agree with this. Here's my gut. Never wavered from it, especially on game day. I think Tennessee's going to steamroll Oklahoma on Saturday. I think it's going to be kind of South Carolina 2023. I think Mateer is going to be overwhelmed by this atmosphere. And Tennessee's defensive line, I think they get home. I think this is a sack return game for Tennessee. think they get some timely, maybe a pick six in this one, something like that. I think Tennessee is going to be fine on Saturday night. I'm not worried about them beating Oklahoma. And I think they obviously crushed New Mexico State. My fear, because I predicted 8-4 before the year, where my gut is, then they laid the all-time stink bomb in Gainesville to the interim. And I don't know if they get up off the mat for Vanderbilt after being eliminated from college football playoff contention against a team that might be playing for their college football playoff lives. That is what gets super interesting to me, is like, what do we see from Tennessee if they drop the Florida game and don't have anything to play for against Vanderbilt coming in that final week? Like, I don't know. That's where I'm at. Like, that's how I'm calculating this.
If they lose that game to Florida, I would bet my house that they're going to lose to Vanderbilt as well.
I tend to lean
I remember
the same
a really
way.
smart guy saying this on the pod last week. When I was laughed at for thinking that Vanderbilt was a harder game than Oklahoma.
I think Vanderbilt is still...
They're a terrible matchup for Tennessee. Do you watch Tennessee's linebackers and safeties play?
Hold on.
Gap integrity against the
Perlotti's
run?
awesome. Perlotti, I am the leader of the Perlotti fan club. Many forget that he played at Buford High School, the powerhouse in my neck of the woods. But Jaden's a player, man. Jaden is like, he's a wild card, man. Like he's like, he's great.
Card.
Yeah, like he's wild card. He's just like, he's
Charlie
cutting the
Kelly
brakes.
in the back of the van.
Yeah, he's cutting the brakes and hopping out. Like, you just don't know what's happening with Jared. I don't know if he's doing the right stuff. I just know he's an electric factory. Like, I'm all in on Jade Perlotti.
That's
like,
a good matchup against Vanderbilt when you're not sure if they're doing the right stuff.
He also might do. I mean, hey, you know what? He got better. He didn't pick up the ball last week. He picked up the ball this week.
It's true.
He's great. I love Jade Perlotti.
He did look good on Saturday.
He's fast, man. Like you see it. Like him, Spillman, I think still got some work to do. But there are guys you see, Arion. I mean, it's just like Perlotti is just a dude. Like he's gonna start at Tennessee one day. Like Perlotti just looks like an SEC linebacker when he's out there, and I think Spillman will eventually get there too. I think he has his flashes, but Perlotti is a true freshman.
You think Perlotti looks more like an SEC linebacker than Spillman out there?
Yes, as a true freshman, yeah. I think he had a better year than what Spillman looked like last year. Perlotti's a good player, man.
Spillman didn't play until the Vanderbilt game. He played like 40 snaps this whole freshman season.
It just those 40 didn't really match what I saw from Perlotti.
You were salivating watching him in the Vanderbilt game.
I just loved him with the club hand. Like he's just he's out here risking it all. Like I like Spillman too, but I mean, that's probably your starters next year, right? Like it's probably Perlotti and Spillman.
I don't know, man. Maybe.
Ryan, what's your 40 at safety going into next year?
Let's hear it.
Just cruel and unusual punishment from Chase to after the week of baseball and basketball coverage, mostly baseball, coaching search stuff. To start, you think Perlotti starts a linebacker next year? That's crazy. That's crazy to put that on me.
Hey, you never know what's going to happen on this podcast. You never know where we're going. You just got to keep your head on a swivel. Ryan, final football thing. We'll do some hoops here and some baseball real quick as well. The Vols are favored by, I think, a 1.5 versus the Sooners this weekend. Does that feel about right? Based on where you feel or what you think of Oklahoma, I think you think this line should be higher for Tennessee.
I do believe it moved. I looked earlier today.
Okay.
It moved to 3.5.
Okay.
I don't know where it is at right now, but yeah, about a field goal favorite. I mean, look, if I'm looking at it just logically, that seems right. If these two teams were playing on a neutral field, yeah, it does feel like it'd be about a toss-up. I'm just not a huge believer in Oklahoma, and I think Tennessee at home is, very, very difficult to beat. So I would certainly pick Tennessee to cover right now, but I somewhere in that 3 to 6 point range is probably what, if I had to set it, what I would set it at.
I think it should be a little bit higher, Ethan. What do you think?
I think about 3.5 is probably right. I think we're looking at a pretty close game. I mean, I feel like when both of the fan bases feel like they're going to lose this game, it can't really be much more than about 3.
Do Tennessee fans really feel like they're losing this game? Tennessee's lost only to Georgia since the start of the 2021 season at home.
I think there's a subset of Tennessee fans that think Tennessee's defense is the worst thing that has ever happened to organized football. And I think that in general will
vocal.
lead them. Yeah, and that will make them believe that they could lose this game. And like I say, I think it's going to be Tennessee, but I've seen some doom from both fan bases so far.
They're vocal on XD Everything app.
The everything app.
I think it's like one of those things too, where I think most fans, football fans, it's funny how basketball and football is different, because I think Vol football fans love good defense. I mean, like the best versions of Tennessee, like they just love running the football, hard-nosed defense, like the peak Fulmer years. Like I mean, Tennessee's history with great defensive players and great running backs, and that's just kind of like, SEC football. Like there's the Georgia hats, run the damn ball, and everything else. And they get really frustrated when the defense is this bad. And it's like everyone's been talking for the last 2 years. It's like, I need the offense back. I need the deep passes. I need to see the downfield bombs back in my life. I miss the 2022 offense. And then it's back where, to the extent where Tennessee, if the season ended today, would have the highest points per game total of any year in the Heupel era. It would be the highest of all of FBS in every single season except for 2021, if the season ended today. And that was only by 0.05 Ohio State average more points per game than Tennessee is averaging right now. Like Tennessee's offense is back in a lot of ways. Like the running game, probably the shakiest it's been weirdly in the Heupel era. I think they're going to have their worst rushing season statistically by the end of it. But it's just kind of funny because it's just, you just keep going from extreme to extreme, And then on basketball, it's always like, oh, is the offense going to be good enough? And is the offense going to be good enough with Barnes year over year? It's just like the defense is 1-2, and you're like, oh yeah, that's great. We appreciate that we're going to be number 2 in Ken Palm defensively again, but where's the offensive number going to be? And you're like, I mean, it's still pretty. I mean, it's a high floor raiser, and you still do need to be a good. I mean, Florida is a good defensive team. UConn was a good defensive team. Houston, obviously, strong defensive team. Like, yeah, I understand that it's not as fun, but it does feel like Hoops fans love the offense more, right? Like they're just like, yeah, I just rather, I don't know. It just kind of flipped to me.
I just think fans will complain about what's not good. That's as simple as I think it is. I don't know. Maybe the complaints about the defense this year are louder than the complaints about the offense was last year. But
am I crazy? Like I'm enjoying the season. I'm enjoying this offense. Like I'm enjoying Chris Brazzell having a breakout year in the offense, and Joey Aguilar's been by and large great. Like I'm enjoying this year. Like the defense. The secondary stinks, but look, you're not perfect. And this was a gap year. Like I just didn't look at this year. I mean, with where they were at certain spots, I'm like, they weren't winning the title, but I'm just enjoying the season for what it is. It's just fun.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I mean, one odd year Vols. And it's, I think the thing I would say is like, as I said many times on here, the biggest question I had before Nico entered the portal was, can Josh Heupel fix this offense? Can he make adjustments to what teams have done? And he has. So, obviously you don't want the ceiling to fall, and Tennessee goes 7-5. And, you'd really especially like them to at least get to 9-3, because I think everyone would have signed up for 9-3 when Nico bolted to the portal. And you do that with having Josh Heupel answer the offensive questions. Like, yeah, I believe you can nitpick stuff for the season and think they weren't great here and they should have been better at this and that, and all that would be completely fair. But I would definitely leave the season feeling much better about the future and the state of the program than I entered it with.
Yeah, Ethan, I was talking to somebody last week on this pod, and I was like, and they made a great point of like, if like Tennessee loses the Florida game, they're probably losing the Vanderbilt game. But if they win the Florida game, then they're probably winning the Vanderbilt game. They're probably going 10-2. So I just don't think it's 9-3 or 10-2. I wish I remember like who I was talking to, but it was a good point. At the time,
might have been Sylvia Sharp.
It might have been Sylvia. I'd have to go back in the archives, but I don't think 9-3 is going to happen here. It's too clean. Either Tennessee's going 8-4 or 10-2, making the playoff. I think that's where this season's going.
Well, I also think Tennessee could beat Florida and lose to Vanderbilt. Like,
I don't think that happens with the playoff on the line at home. They're not losing to Vanderbilt.
It wouldn't be my pick, but
when you talk about gut punches of all gut punches,
yeah, I think I agree with Ryan here. I think that's definitely on the table. I think a win over Florida, because Florida's just, I mean, you can go back to the streak and whatever, and Tennessee's cursed when they play in Gainesville. Florida's like really bad this year, like even worse than I feel like they usually are when we say Tennessee should beat Florida on a down year. It's just how will Florida respond to Billy Napier being gone? Really, that's the big question, is because obviously they didn't play this week, and they have I believe some tough matchups coming up. I don't know exactly who they play, but they're still in contention for a bowl. They beat like Florida State, and they beat, I don't know who else it is, maybe Auburn. They have some winnable games, and then Tennessee would be the game. It's like, yeah, they could conceivably be fighting for something here. So that's all it's going to be, is do they come out this next week and get just absolutely trampled, or do they come out and win? Because if they come out and win, then I'm going to absolutely be thinking, yeah, Tennessee could lose this game. But like otherwise, Vanderbilt is the considerably better football team between the two, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I could absolutely see Diego Pavia led Vanderbilt rushing for 100 yards and throwing for 250 and just kind of waxing this defense at the same time. It's possible.
I won't allow it.
No, I don't want it to happen, but it could happen.
No, won't do it. If Tennessee beats Florida and lose to Vanderbilt at home to end their season, no, can't do it. Can't do it. Motion denied. Motion denied on this very program. Ethan, the biggest thing you saw versus Duke for Vols hoops that you're going to monitor going into the real opener here in a little over a week?
It's kind of tough because it's Duke exhibition, and Duke has 5 players that are better than Mercer's best player, and obviously Mercer isn't going to have anybody that can just absolutely dominate the way that Cam Boozer did. So it's what I saw is I feel like the Vols are going to be able to dominate down low, because really I think they played pretty well. At least Tennessee's probably 4 best of JP, Felix, Cade, and then Dwayne Brown, who I thought was one of the more impressive players of the game on Saturday. Really, I'm interested to see just what he does. I'm interested to see what his role becomes, what him and Jalen Carey kind of do to battle for minutes as the season goes along. I think that's going to be a very interesting November to follow anyway. I think the thing I'm probably going to monitor the most is the 3-point shot falling, because Tennessee really, that's the one thing, like, if they're getting open looks from 3, and they were some pretty open looks. I understand Dame Sarr is a really good defender. I understand Isaiah Evans and Cam Boozer are obviously very good defenders, but there were some open shots that Tennessee just straight up missed. And is that going to be just a case of it being an exhibition game that you can just wave off, or is that going to, kind of become a trend this season? Because I think Gillespie and Amant combined for like 3 for 18 from 3, which, if they're doing that and Tennessee's still in the game, that obviously speaks very well to the Vols offense. But are they, who's going to emerge as a really good 3-point shooter for Tennessee outside of them? Because I do believe that they're both going to be fine. I think Gillespie and Aman are both going to be good 3-point shooters, good scorers this season. I think this is just a case of Barnes kind of going out there and saying, hey, you guys are our best scorers. We want to see what you can do against a really athletic, really versatile Duke defense. Obviously, this one doesn't count, so just go out and get the ultimate green light here. Just go for it, and they did. They combined for what was it, like 10 of 40? I mean, it was ultimately not a very great performance, but it's not something that you can say like, oh, I'm gonna make all the what's the word I'm looking for, takeaways from this just because it's against Duke in an exhibition game. So I'm interested to see that. I'm interested to see how well they shoot the ball. Who I guess is the guy that they go to when that game does come around.
Ryan, would you still play the season based on what you saw?
They should probably just pack it up, try again next year. Yeah, I mean, I think Ethan made a good point about with how poorly Jacoby and Nate played offensively. For Tennessee to still be in the game was definitely a good sign. I think Jacoby, I couldn't be any less worried about. Nate, I'm not reading into it a ton, but I do think like you could see Nate have some early season struggles. I think that's possible. So that is one I'm monitoring more. To the overall about Mercer, nothing. I don't care about Mercer. I don't care about the first 5 games. But when they roll into Vegas and start playing some real competition, I think the stuff is mostly rotation based. Like, I think Ethan nailed it. I think they have 5 very capable players in the front court. And I do think it's that Dwayne Brown, Jalen Carey battle. It's going to be interesting, but just minutes in general, how they divide those up, it will be interesting. And then obviously shooting guard. I did not see Bishop Oswald playing 25 minutes last night. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that can continue, frankly.
But do you think it does? Do you think that was just something you try first before you? Because like Berg got there super late, and I think we all agree that Berg is probably the guy who before too late in the season, Berg is going to be the starter at the 2. Like Berg is your highest upside guy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree he's the highest upside guy. There's no doubt about that. And yeah, I would probably lean towards still thinking that happened, but I don't think this was just like Bishop's the returner, so we'll give it to him. Like we'll give him the chance. I think it was that Rick trusts Bishop Boswell the most at the 2 guard right now defensively. And I don't think he has complete trust defensively in Jacoby and Nate. So he wanted to play his best perimeter defender and start him at the 2 guard spot, which starting him's whatever. It's playing him the last 10 minutes of the game when you made 3 field goals and one of those was a transition dunk. And that's not all the fault of Bishop Boswell being on the court, but it's just this front court is not built to space the court. Even in a night when JP and Felix both hit a 3-pointer, it's not built to space the floor, and Bishop can't space the floor. So it just makes stuff a little bit more difficult. Makes stuff a little bit more difficult offensively when he's out there, especially when it's not like JP, who you feel can probably space it the best of that group, and or even Cade, even though he doesn't shoot it great, he can play more on the perimeter. I feel like so. Just that lineup, I didn't think was very good and was peculiar. They wrote it for so long to me.
I mean, it's going to be complicated. Jalen Carey's going to have to fight for his minutes. Like Dwayne Brown is a player. Yeah. Like Dwayne Brown's coming.
He was the most.
Jalen Carey's got rebounded a lot better.
Apart from Cam, he was the most impressive player on the court in the time. He was out there for 13 minutes and got 6 rebounds. That's insane. I mean, he was 3rd on the team in rebounds, despite I think Nate was first and he had like 30 minutes, and then Felix was second and he had like 33 or something like that. And then Dwayne Brown had 13 minutes and he had 6 rebounds. 3 of them offensive, may I add too, while Cam Boozer was on the floor. Like that's just insanity. And it's an exhibition against Duke, but I would love to see I would love to monitor that, see how that continues, because if that keeps going, I mean, he reminded me in a lot of ways of Tobe Awaka, really. I think they had very similar kind of not breakouts, but openings in that regard.
Yeah, even to your point, Jalen Carey gets 1 rebound in 11 minutes, and that efficiency, he has no chance of helping this team. Like that's the path of Jalen Carey helping this team, is being an elite rebounder, and he was not that last night.
But that's okay. Like Tennessee's got depth there. Like if Jalen Carey,
they have a problem with how many guys they have that are good right now. So it's not like they can't survive Jalen Carey struggling. It's just you're looking at what's the rotation going to be like, how the guys earn roles. And to me, Jalen Carey does not have an elite offensive game. What he should be really good at is rebounding and probably bringing some physicality and bringing a little bit of Euros with the fouls and kind of the goon type of guy, on the floor. So you just need more rebounding from him.
And then, I mean, you got the ultimate floor spacing big in my man JP Estrella. So
yeah, that's what I knew. That's what I knew. Look inside the lab. I knew Chase wasn't watching the game live last night when JP Estrella hit a 3 and Chase didn't send any messages. And I immediately texted in the Vol Sports guy group. I go, Chase, you aren't watching the game right now, are you?
It was like 2 minutes after it, and Ryan was just like, Chase isn't watching. And it's like, yeah, he's not. He would have said something.
He would have said something. And even more impressive play from JP last night. Maybe not more notable, but something that I've just noticed watching him is what a good passer he is out of the post. He had that great. He got it quick, and Cade cut, and just a great accurate pass right in the money to Cade for a dunk. So JP need him to get his stuff going defensively. That's what Rick said. He wasn't on any sort of minutes restriction. He just had some defensive mistakes that limited his minutes. Need to get that ironed out and him to get going more, because he's clearly a very, very talented offensive player.
I also, one more note. I want to know how real the Felix Okpara 3-pointer is, because he's 2 for 2 in his Tennessee career, guys. Like he has never missed a Tennessee.
Don't let Felix get hot. Don't let him get hot.
I think when Felix is in the corner and he's wide open and there's 15 seconds or less on the shot clock, in most cases they're going to let him shoot it. Obviously, if it's one of those games where they're 2 for 17 from 3, I don't think Rick's going to be happy if he pulls the 3 in that instance. But just generally speaking, in the corner, wide open, not early in the shot clock, I think they'll let him shoot it.
My bigger thing when things are getting late in the shot clock is Jacoby and Nate moving out of the way for JP to go to work.
Throw the ball down to Big 13.
That's what you got to do. Final thing
that's the
here.
other thing. Sorry, that's the other thing I'll just add, and Ethan, you've been on this too. That doesn't why I'm not worried about the game is I think Tennessee's going to be a really good rebounding team, and they got out rebounded last night. And again, that's something you point to of like this team should be really good rebounding. They're built to be really good rebounding. That's partly why they lost the game last night. And if it was a regular season game, that's why I think you'd be mad that they lost the game last night. If you just clean up those things, you probably win. But that's another area where I'm like, I'm not worried about that aspect of the team. Like, I'm not worried about Jacoby shooting whatever he did last night, 5 of 21. Like, I'm not worried about that. So it's, some positives from still being in the game. And I can't go without saying it. Amari Abram, the most awesome fit I've ever seen. I didn't even think he played that well last night, and I was still in love with him because of how awesome the fit, the baggy sleeves, the massive headband, the knee socks. He had the like massive wristband on his forearm. He rocked. He rocked the fit he was wearing.
This is so funny that you bring that up because he had probably a 5 or 6 out of 10 game, but he gets a 7 out of 10 just because of the look. Yeah. I agree. The headband is amazing. With the 77, it's fantastic stuff.
The 77, yeah. At one point he missed his shot. Like I think it was a shot that had to hit the top of the backboard or side of the backboard. And Mike Wilson goes, I think his sleeves are a little bit too tight. I think it's just restricting his movement.
I love it. Final thing here. See this? Did you hear about this? Tennessee hired Josh Elander as their new head coach on Saturday afternoon. Ryan Schumpert had to miss the game of the season in Lexington in person to cover.
It's tough. A rivalry like that.
You hate to see it. Ryan, what made him the right choice to you? How does this change your feelings about the 2026 Tennessee baseball team? And then what was the most interesting thing that, as you've gotten to know Josh over the last couple of years, that separates him from Vitello as a person and leader?
Yeah, I think, why he was the right guy. I think one, he's just earned this opportunity. He's been such a key role in Tennessee becoming the program that they've become. He's a guy that has had head coaching opportunities. He was a guy that, as I said last week, he's going to be a head coach in this conference sooner rather than later. And I think he's earned opportunity here. And so that's it. I wrote it in my story on, why I thought he was the right choice. I think he would have been a good hire if they made the hire in June. If Tony left for the LSU job or decided he doesn't want to do this anymore or something like that in June, I think Elander would have been a good choice then. I think it's all the more because of the timeline, because you can just have the continuity of the program. You can keep the staff together. Your recruiting classes that are elite in the 2026 class and then the 2027 class, you're largely going to be able to keep together and keep, stacking talent here down the line. So those are big reasons why I think it's the right hire. I don't think it changes a ton for my outlook on 26 because I think even if it was an outside hire, most of the guys would have stayed. Their options were go play JUCO ball or Division II ball, if not. So, I think they were going to have a talented roster either way. You feel a little bit better about them hitting the ground running early in the season, I think, than you would have if a new coach came in basically after fall practice. But, I think they'll be good. It didn't change my outlook a ton. I think, again, we'll start to learn more. Not that we won't learn stuff about Josh this year, but we'll start to learn more about how the program's affected long-term going into 27. You see it all the time, the coaches who leave a good situation and next year. I mean, Kevin Ollie won a national championship. That's about as good as a way to point to it as anything. So, and then the last thing, he's got a very different personality than Tony. And I've said this to the people when Elander's names came up in job searches and everybody talks about what a loss would be from a recruiting standpoint and what a loss it would be from him as a hitting coach standpoint, all completely true and the most important things. But I've said, Tony's a madman in games. Frank's a madman in games. Ross is a madman in games. Elander's kind of like the calming voice in that room. He's the one that doesn't get too high and too low, I think. So in that way, he's very different. I think he, and some of this is the nature of being a head coach as opposed to an assistant coach, but I think he builds more personal relationships with his players than Tony did, which again, I think that's probably more has to do with being a head coach as opposed to, a CEO of a program as opposed to being an assistant coach. But I think, into your point of what former players said about him when I talked to him last week, a lot of the stuff did not surprise me, talking about him as a recruiter and building those relationships, or him as a hitting coach. And, Griffin Merritt had a funny quote where he was talking about, he's like, if I had a question about hitting, I'm going to go to Josh. He's like, Tony would be the first one to tell you he stunk as a hitter. Josh was a good hitter. I'm going to go ask Josh for help. Not that Tony couldn't help and he couldn't give these things. He's like, but Josh was a really good hitter. So I thought, that was interesting. But I think to the personality thing, I heard this from multiple players. I think Griffin was one. I think Camden Sewell was one. And maybe Jared Dickey was the other. Who basically said something very similar, which is talking about their personalities being different, Josh being a little more even keel, and then essentially saying something of like, don't get it twisted though. When Josh needed to get in our ass, he'd get in our ass. Like, he can get on us. He's not just completely hands off and not gonna chew us out when we deserve to be chew out and stuff. So that was something that I thought with the personality especially was really interesting to me.
I'm curious what they do to replace Josh. Like, do they hire the guy who went to Pitt this past Luke? What's his name?
Bonfield. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, I think if Luke Bonfield was still on staff, he would have probably been the obvious choice to go into that role. But I mean, Josh talked about it today. He's going to stick in house. I mean, he didn't say that 100%, but that's what he heavily implied. So to me, what becomes here's what becomes interesting is, I think Ricky Martinez is probably maybe the most natural option as a position player, a guy that works a lot with the infielders. I wonder though, do they go to Josh Reynolds, who's the assistant pitching coach, who has his hands all over the pitching stuff right now, who does is portal guys that I talked a lot about the relationship with Josh, because as Frank gets a little bit older and isn't quite as hands-on with the recruiting stuff. I wonder if they would go there. And we've seen from Tony's standpoint, he's done it on both sides, where he's had, for his 3 assistants, he's had 1 pitching guy, and he's had 2 hitting guys at times, or position guys at times, and he's done it where he's had 2 pitching guys at times and 1 position guy at times. I wonder if Elander being a position guy, a hitting coach, if he would maybe tend to lean to going to a second pitching hire. But I don't know. Those would be, to me, the 2 that are the most obvious candidates.
And Q is staying, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it sounds like. I don't think anything's 1,000% set in stone, but that is what it sounds like.
Big time, man. Everyone staying around. That's a big part of it too, like the setup for success.
For sure.
It's like, I mean, he's gonna have the same infrastructure, just no Tony. Like, it's just,
yeah, it raises the ceiling. I mean,
yes.
It raises the floor so significantly, because you just have so many of the same pieces.
He's one of those sneaky important guys.
Yeah. No, he is. And I think maybe all the more important now with Elander, because, that's, and Q was so close to Tony. But you hear people say, like, Q was the bad cop to Tony's good cop a lot of times. And I think with Elander, even though, just a little bit more relaxed personality, trying to find himself in this new role, I wonder if that'll be all the more important to be able to have Q to be that bad cop.
Yeah, he's got it, because that's what you're looking for to replace Elander. It's like, do you find a bad cop? It's like the Alex Golish thing. Do you find someone to be that? And it's like, maybe it's just Q. And he's, I mean, is Ricky, what is he? Is Ricky more good cop or bad cop? He's a former player.
I would think more good cop.
Okay.
Generally speaking. Yeah.
Well, Ryan Schumpert, Ethan Stone, that's all I've got here tonight here on the Tennessee Vols Sports Guys. Ethan, what can the good folks find from you over at SaturdayDownSouth.com this week?
Yeah, I've got bowl projections that'll be coming out on, I guess, Tuesday. So when you're listening to this, probably. And then otherwise, it'll just be a lot of the news desk, getting ready for basketball season, getting ready for the final 5 weeks of the regular season. A lot of chaos, obviously, to come. A lot of teams still in the fight for the college football playoff. So we'll have full coverage there, SDS and Saturday Tradition.
There you go. What about you, Ryan Schumpert, over there at RockyTopInsider.com?
Yeah, tons of content. Probably have some more baseball fallout this week. A really good Elander recruiting story that I'm hoping to put into a story this week. Some of the stuff we talked about, from more stuff from former player conversations, and then basketball, getting geared up for the season. I had a talk to Rick one-on-one SEC Media Days. That'll run sometime this week. I was planning on running last week, but people were a little more interested in baseball than basketball last week. And then obviously we'll have tons on the site getting you ready for the Vols and Sooners on Saturday night.
There you go. I love it. Ryan Schumpert, Ethan Stone, always a pleasure. And I will talk to y'all again next week.
Nicely done, nephew. the Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.